This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. Learn more at www.twindlefoundation.org.
Let's talk.
So many people stay hidden due to fear. Fear of judgment, shame, or even guilt. You are not alone on your journey. Girl, you are not alone. This is a safe place. A place to be heard, a place to be free, a place to be yourself. Bring your girlfriends and let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it. I first want you to just introduce yourself and just tell everyone who you are.
I am Libre Timmons. I don't know if you asked, but I'm 42 and proud of it. But I'm really 25 for life. But I'm a mom of 3 sons. Married for 16 years, just working, doing, normal living life every day.
Yeah,
that's me.
16 years. That's a long time. I was a little shocked. I guess because the years.
I think it's 16. I miscount. I lose count like it's been a long time, but I think it's.
I guess because of the years have passed so quickly, and it's almost like we met yesterday. And so when you said 16 years, and that means the boys are getting older.
Assad is 19.
Wow. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
I was thinking that he was about to graduate from high school.
No, he graduated last year. Like, he is a big grown man. I mean, he's still my baby, but he's a big grown man. Yeah.
You know what? So tell me, and I'm glad that you said that, because being a mom of 3 boys, I know that that's so tough, especially all of the stuff that has been going on in this country, with racism and the police brutality, that type of stuff. And I'm sure that there has to be some type of fear or, saying as far as for a mother, and I'm not a mother, but I have nieces and nephews. And sometimes I have that fear, for them. And I just had a conversation with one of my brothers recently, a few days ago, just saying how, how much I love his kids. Well, I love all my nieces and nephews, but just how much that I love them and just want to make sure that they're protected and taken care of. And so it's so hard, because when you think of boys, my brother has 3 sons as well, too. One of my brothers has 3 sons. And so it's so hard, because I know what life is out here, what it's like out here. And so just tell me, as a mother, how does that make you feel? And knowing that, they're not babies anymore. And that your oldest is 19 and he's going out there in the world, and it's a little bit crazy out there. And you could, not we, because I have no kids, but you can only protect them as, so much, and then you have to kind of let them go. Just kind of tell me how you feel about that, just being a mom with boys and just having to let them go and just become men.
It's very difficult. It's been really challenging for me, because there's not a handbook for parenting. And there are different stages of parenting, like when they're babies and then they're toddlers and in elementary school. But it continues. Like, my son is 19, but we're still learning how to be parents of a 19-year-old. So it's constantly new and changing, because I am fearful. I have sons. I have Black men that I'm raising.
Right.
So everything that happens, like if something bad happens or I see something in the news, I go straight to my sons and I have a conversation with them. And I know I get on their nerves, but that's the only way I know how to have some control, even though we don't have control over what's going to happen to them.
Right.
Us trying to educate them is all that we can do. Like, my husband and I, of course, we try to live by example, but we try to have real life conversations with them, especially my oldest. And I'll just me getting on his nerves or whatever, I just take that, because I would rather us have the conversation and me annoy you than me to not have had the conversation with you, because they don't understand sometimes. Right. We're older and we've been around and we've experienced things. And I know that they have to have their own experiences, but it's just not going to stop me from having a conversation. So I just I do a lot of talking, but that's just me. My husband, he's a little different, but we do. And I'll be like, babe, you need to talk to Assad, because I know sometimes coming from him, it's going to be different because he's a man. So some conversations I'll talk to him, but I'll be like, babe, go talk to him about this, or talk to the boys about the younger one. He's 8. So a lot of these conversations we're not having with him yet, but the older two, like, yeah, anything and everything I can talk to them about, I do.
You know what? I think that that's so good because I feel like even for myself growing up, there's a lot of conversations that I probably missed, and I had to learn those things for myself. And so even growing up, I remember there was all these talks about like KKK, and I used to have that fear inside of me. You hear these little stories, but you really didn't know exactly what that meant. And I didn't hear it from my parents. I heard it from somebody else, from up the street. Do you know how you have that one friend that just babbles everything? She just comes around and just tells you all the bad news. And so she was the one that just kind of like, I don't want to say she was like a town gossiper, but she just kind of spread everything or whatever. And that's how I learned about KKK. I grew up in the country, and we didn't have those discussions about racism, that type of stuff. Even though those things went on, like it's been happening, but we never talked about that. So then when I graduated and I went off to college was a little bit different. I experienced some things, but when I got into the working field and I started working with the public, that's when I started to experience a lot of that stuff. And it's so funny because it's different. Like my stories are different from my sisters and brothers, So when we have those conversations, it hits a little differently because, they have that, oh, wow, or, I guess sometimes I always say it doesn't matter until it matters to you, because if you haven't experienced it, then you really don't fully understand. But for someone like myself, I remember I was working in the automotive industry, and there was a guy that said that he didn't want to work with me because I was Black. And it was, and it tore me up inside. Like I'm thinking, and at this time, this was probably like 2012 or something like that. And so it's just like, hey, listen, we're in 2012 and, we're still having that conversation. And his daughter, she apologized. But at the same time, she said she was very sorry, and he was still stuck in that old mentality. And she took him home. But it was just the idea of, it's like the audacity of someone just to come out and just say something like that. And you brush it off, or say you just keep going, but it wears on you. The first time you may overlook it. The second time it's just like, and then all of a sudden it's like you start to feel like this is all people see me for, the color of my skin. And so it's so hard because we really don't have those conversations. I'll just say this. I didn't have those conversations in my home growing up, and we didn't have the internet or social media back then. So now we're more exposed to the world, and we see more of all of the ugliness, not more of it, all of the ugliness. So now it's so different from growing up, growing up with one TV in the house to having several TV in the house and social media, and you're being able to be exposed to everything that's happening in the world. So how do you allow your kids to see some of that stuff, or do you try to protect them from watching, certain things that go on out there in the world?
I guess it depends on the age, and I guess in the maturity level as well.
That's good.
So my 8-year-old, he is a little, different. So a lot of things we feel like we have to shelter him. But the older boys, I guess we kind of let things happen organically. I know that's kind of generic, but it's really not. It's like we just let them be. I don't block off certain channels, or I did keep them off social media as much as I could. Like that's been a struggle. That was a struggle. Like, but I didn't fight it hard. Like, I know a couple of years I had to, kind of take my son's phone because he was getting in some trouble or whatever. And when they were younger, maybe like, 10 and 11 and stuff, I told them that I did not want them to have like a Snapchat and Instagram yet. But kids are kids, and like they still sneak and do it. Right. So because I set up like all the Gmail accounts, dudes, I can see when you're logging into Snapchat. So I would try my best to manage it, but like kids are going to be kids, so I tried my best to keep them off as much as possible. And luckily for us, to my knowledge, they weren't that big on some of the social media, but I never got Snapchat, so I couldn't really monitor them other than seeing that they logged into Snapchat. Like, no, but like now I feel like they're so much older to where it's hard to hide things from them. But my 8-year-old, he had been getting on TikTok, and he doesn't understand that some things are just inappropriate for kids.
Yeah.
So I literally had to take his phone because he doesn't want to watch the bad stuff. He wants to watch the funny stuff that's cute, but he doesn't understand that a lot of that stuff is not appropriate for kids.
Right.
So I just keep telling him so that he understands. And I did take his phone because, he didn't listen when I told him, do not watch TikTok. Do not get on TikTok. But it's hard, man. Mm-hmm. Trying to keep up with jobs and finances and 3 kids at 3 different ages. And it's a lot.
Yeah, 19 and 8, that's a huge gap in between. So, and you're still learning because now you have this young adult and you're learning, to be a mother on that level. And then you have a younger person. And I'm sure that when you get to the second and the third one, you've already gone through so much, but then of course they have so many different personalities. So there's a difference. And then you still don't know what to expect from them.
It's nonstop.
Yeah.
Because I feel like once they graduate high school, it's a different level of conversations that you have to have with them.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to him like a child anymore. He's still my child, but I want to try to get to a respect level and an adult level and really have adult conversations with him, because that's what you want. You want to do your best to help them to become an adult and live and survive in the world. A lot of conversations that, like you said, I didn't get. So everything I didn't get and I felt like I needed, I try my best to pour into them and give to them.
Yeah.
And talk to my husband about, like, we need to do this, we need to do that, because I had to learn so much from other people, from the world. Like, the world had to teach me so much, and it took so long for me to get something. So whatever I have right now, I'm trying to give it all to them. Not at once, but just, I don't know. It's hard.
What you said was so interesting, that we were taught by the world, and you're right. Society plays a big role in, I don't want to say upbringing, but society does play a big role in the things that we take in. And so I found myself in a place in my life, which is so crazy, because at 40 years old, I'm trying to dismantle the things that I've learned from others and seen people do. And so now I'm just like trying to tear all those walls down and start over. And it's crazy because at 40 years old, it's not easy to start over. And now you have to I feel like some of this is right and some of this is not right. So then I have to hold on to what I feel is right. And then you have to come to a place where you stop listening to some of that stuff, and then have to go out and look for, search for those answers that works for you. Because no matter what someone teaches you, and a lot of this comes from what someone else taught them, it's almost like, okay, well, this person, my mom learned this or my dad learned this from this person. Is that true or not true? You know what I'm saying? How much of that do I want to carry? So now it's just like you kind of go off on your own. And I think that's a good thing when you allow people to there's some things that you have to experience yourself. Right. And just, move on. Because I had a friend that once told me, she said that as far as like when they were growing up, her mom, taught them about, took them to church, but she gave them freedom to go wherever they wanted to go at, saying, and accept God the way that they wanted to. It was no tradition, none of that type of stuff. And I thought that was so amazing, because it allowed them to be free and learn and take in what they felt that was right, and not that stuff being forced on them. So I thought that was good that they had that type of experience. And I'm just like, man, I wish I did. But now I feel like I do have that type of experience, because now I have the freedom to live life and take in what I want to take in, and not take in what someone else feels that I should take in. I feel like I'm walking in my own truth. Even at 40, almost 41, I'm walking in my own truth.
It's hard because, like you said earlier, things that we have been taught and that are instilled in us in certain ways that we don't even realize, like just about, you were talking about the job experience, like we get to a point to where we're numb to that. Like we're so used to it. And I know myself, a lot of times I try not to be, but I go into situations prepared for them to only see that I'm a Black woman.
Gosh.
It sucks. I wish I didn't have to be like that, but that's how I go into most situations. If I meet somebody new, it's like, I feel like that is what they see. I be myself, but that's the reality, for me. That's just how I feel. I wish that I could, like you said, tear that down and it not be that way anymore, but
right.
It's really hard. So I find myself fighting against that, especially like in the workplace. I find myself fighting against that hard. Like, I don't know. People just feel like you're supposed to do certain things.
Right.
Like you really are beneath them,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
you're exactly
it's
right.
hard. I have to fight against that so much.
It's almost like, I want to say that sometimes some people feel like they don't even have to respect you. Like you don't even exist in the room. And that's so hard for me because it's almost like I'm a woman just like you're a woman. You know what I'm saying? We were all born with the same body parts. You know what I'm saying? We have different backgrounds, we have different shades of skin, we have different hair. There's some uniqueness about me, but you're not better than I am. But some people just don't see it that way. And then even what's so odd to me you know what, I'm gonna be honest, this drives me crazy. It gets underneath my skin. I hate going into a conversation with someone of a different race and they want to say, oh, I have a Black friend or I know a Black person. It's just like, why does that matter? You know what I'm saying? So is that your way of saying, oh, I like Black people, or is that
Black people?
Is that like the invitation? Like, okay, it's okay for you to talk with me because I know Black people, or I was online the other day and I saw this post and someone was saying that their daughter, she was a Caucasian lady, and was dating this African-American guy or whatever. And she was just giving all the good qualities and how he was so respectful and this and treated his daughter right. And then she turned around and said she was just like, oh, he's a gentleman and this. And she then said, and this was the insulting part for me, and I think that most people were just looking at the post and they saw, oh, this African-American guy is dating this Caucasian and they're one and there's no issue or whatever. But my thing is that this lady, she just said, instead of her saying he was a great guy, he was a great gentleman, she said he was he was a boy. And I was just thinking to myself, there's the disrespect. Why did you have to call him a boy? Because I looked at the picture and I said, these are two young adults. They didn't look like they were teenagers. They looked like they were, maybe out of high school or, saying maybe in college or something like that. And it bothered me. And it's like everyone overlooked the fact, and it's okay, saying, for us to embrace and try to get, but there's just some things like, and it's almost like you have to teach some people how to respect you. And it's always like, well, why does it always have to be us? Why does it always have to be us? Why do we have to teach someone else how to respect us? That is my issue. That is my issue.
I don't know. That's a hard one. I'm up for the challenge always. I guess
I'm tired.
It's not that I necessarily want to, but it's just like, listen, if you deal with me, you're going to learn. You're going to have to learn.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You're going to have to. Okay, I understand that part. Yes, you're going to have to learn to be respectful. But I was always so tired of having certain conversations like, oh, yeah, we have our niece is dating this Black guy or something, and we have these Black kids in our family or something like that. And it's just like, why is that important? Why are we having this conversation? Well, I met this really sweet Black lady and she cooks for us and stuff like that. What? Like, she makes this great macaroni and cheese and it's almost like there's a lot of pride in those statements. And I'm just, I don't know. I'm having a hard time. It's
a lot because you don't know which things to really take offense to, or if you're really just overreacting because it's in your mind. Like I'm like that all the time. Like I don't even know, like, was I supposed to be offended by that or? did they not mean it that way? And I think a lot of it is that they don't understand and that they are ignorant. So that's why I feel like, okay, well, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, they didn't know any better, maybe. So let me let you know.
I'm sure they have the same social media we have. They see what's going on out in the world.
They don't be paying attention. I don't think people really pay attention. I think that people see what they want to see.
Okay, I agree with that. They do. They see what they want to see. And you know what? They hear what they want to hear. And you're gonna hear me when you address me. I'm so sorry, but I can no longer. I just feel like, okay, so if I have to be corrected, you need to be corrected. We'll all be corrected in love. That's how I feel. We'll all be corrected in love. Because some things just can't be, we just can no longer tolerate it and be okay with some things, because if we are, things will never change. That's my thing. And I'm looking for a change. And there's a lot of people who, and especially after the whole situation with George Floyd, I mean, that was so, I don't want to even get into that. But that was a very tough situation, but it was really good to see people come together and stand, you know what I'm saying, and stand with African Americans for the cause and stand up for, you know what I'm saying, what we believe in and acceptance. But it's still hard, you know, because I still see those conversations on social media, and it's like the people that you do business with, the people that you talk with, and you know what I'm saying, on a daily basis, and in your mind, it's just like, if I didn't work with you, what would you have thought about me? That's how I feel. If I didn't work with you, would things be different? If I knocked on your door, because you know how salespeople go out and knock on doors and stuff, would things be different? And I had that issue in church. It was just like things was one way inside of the building, but outside of the building, it was different. And it would be the same faces. Yes. And so that was one of the biggest things for me. And it's just like, I can't handle that. I just found myself in a place where I couldn't handle that. Like I didn't feel like it was authentic.
Yeah.
I felt like it became a show, and I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to be a part of that anymore. That was so hurtful for me, because when I started working in business and sales for myself or whatever, I started to see the difference. I really, truly started to see the difference. It was a different person that you see in the church or in your workspace than when you're outside of that. Then you start to see who people really are. So I guess they let their guard down, and so I've struggled. I definitely have struggled with people over the last couple of years.
Did you just not realize it before, or did specific things happen to make you feel that way, or you just didn't see it before?
Okay, so before, like when I was in the workspace, like just in that environment, I saw it a lot. But then church was always, in my eyes, supposed to be a safe space. And then I realized that it was no longer a safe space. And so that was so hard for me, because I started to see the difference. I started to see the difference in the people, in the behavior. And I didn't see, at one point I thought that there was a lot of love. And then I realized that this isn't love. You know, I just started seeing, I think that once I became like active in church and I started to be around people more, because I think that in the beginning I was more of one of those people like, let me get in here and get out of here. So I'm like, let me get out of this door and go home, you know, that type of stuff. But when you become more involved and you start to linger, you start to hear these side conversations, you start to see the behavior of people, you start to witness the things and this is just like, this isn't right. And this is no different and then you start seeing people out and on social media, and then when they voice their opinion, which it's absolutely okay if this is how you feel, but something isn't right about this or whatever. We can't be one way here and then something different out here. And so, that's when I said, no, I can't do this. That's when I started to see everything unfold.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really hard for me, because it started to be no different than the people that were on the outside.
Yeah,
So
that was supposed to be a safe place, probably.
yeah. So it was like the disrespect was still there, even the same disrespect that I was getting from when I was on the job was the same disrespect that I was seeing inside of the church. Also, although they just stepped out the door, so the people was no different. Although they said that their hearts were different, I didn't see the change. I didn't see the difference in it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was interesting. That really was. It's a very hard struggle for me, and I'm still battling with it because, I, yeah,
Did it make you steer away from the church, or?
absolutely, absolutely. It's so hard for me because I grew up in church. I grew up in church, and I started to serve in church at one point in time, and I don't think that I ever would have seen myself not actively going to church. And so what happened was listen. So my experience inside of the building has nothing to do with my relationship with God. So I have not turned on that part of it. I think that I had to figure out ways of getting what I needed in a different way that was a little bit more non-traditional for me. But I watch online, but I'm not really in a space for gathering of people. I can't do that right now. The fellowship part is just not in me. Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. And I'm sure of that. And I'm glad that I'm able to have this conversation because it's my truth, and it's what I experience. And I feel like sometimes when you open up and you share this type of stuff with other church people are always trying to change your mind about how you feel about something. And it's almost like it's not okay, but you know what? It's absolutely okay because this is my story and this is what I've experienced with the church, and you can't change that for me.
Right.
So allow me my moment and allow God to make those corrections for me and give me the time that I need to get to where I need to be. I don't want your help right now. So leave me alone. Yeah. So it's been a little bit different. And I feel like after the pandemic, it was my out. I felt like the pandemic was made an excuse for me not to show up because when we got into that, when that season happened, when we shifted to that season, and of course the church was cooled down for quite some time. So it was easy, just to watch online. But when they started gathering again, I found myself not wanting to be there. I didn't want to go back into that environment. I just didn't feel like it was a safe space. And every time I logged in online and I watched, I saw that there were still so many people that didn't show back up. And it made me wonder if people were feeling the exact same way that I was feeling, or seeing the things that I saw when I was in the church, that type of stuff. I just felt like there should have been a lot of things that should have been different. But, it's not my place to judge them. I feel like, that's whatever goes on, that's on them. Only thing I can do is move forward and, just handle myself. That's it. Deal with it the way that I feel like I need to deal with it. And when it's time for me to change or whatever it is that I need to, I think that, it's going to happen. But as of right now, it's not happening. I don't feel like it's a safe space for me. So, I'm good. And it's so funny that when you're no longer involved in the church, so like the church and the people come together hand in hand. So when you don't go to the church anymore, people don't talk to you anymore. That is
Really?
Yes. Okay? So you've ever been in a workspace where when you leave a job, like you could be really good friends with people, right? And we talk every single day, and then you and I, we work together, at some point in time, but we still talk, we still communicate, And so it's almost like when you no longer work at a job, and you could be there for 10, 15, 20 years, and you kind of grew with these people, their kids and grandkids and all types of stuff. You poured into them, you've given them, you helped them, you shared. And so when that person leaves that door, it's like, oh, they're no longer a member of this organization. So I don't want to talk with them. Even if they see you in the street, they don't want to speak. And that's how I felt like with church, it was like that. Like before, like people would just be talking, you know, say reach out and stuff like that.
Did you reach out to people and they didn't reciprocate, or no one just reached out to you?
No, I wasn't looking for someone to reach out, but there were relationships that I had with people before, you know, being in that church. And, you know, saying when people, you know, sometimes people want you to be a part of something and they kind of like, and then you're a part of that church. And then once you leave, like, and even like you have conversations or at least a hi or something like that, or people check on you, you had a friendship that was more solid than before the church. I don't have that anymore. Like the conversations are gone. You know, sometimes I might get a card or something in the mail, but normally I don't have those daily conversations. And if I do, it's more of, well, have you been back to church? And I say no, and then I don't hear from them again. And I'm just like, wow, you know, that's so funny.
Well, that sounds sad, because that's almost like, well, I guess, I mean, we all deal with that, but church, like you said, is supposed to be I don't go to church, so I can't relate. But that's kind of sad. Like, did you get like depressed from that? Like, no, I mean, seriously. Like,
okay, so let me tell you,
that's the change. And I'm not asking like trying to be funny, but I'm asking like, because that's like a loss. Like, you don't have, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of interaction. That's a lot of whatever energy it is that you were getting from going to church that you don't have anymore. Like, did that affect you during the pandemic? First off, when you couldn't go, and then now seeing other people gather again and you're not going and joining in with them again.
Right. You know what? So let me tell you how that felt for me. I think that at some point I was exhausted. I was exhausted with church. I was exhausted. And so I was already taking a step back, you know, because there were some things that just wore me out. And so I was just a little bit tired of that. And so because I felt like, you know what, I don't need to serve if I'm not in a good space. You know what I'm saying? So let me just take a step back. But then afterwards, and even during the pandemic, it was just like I never had that desire to gather again. And it also made me feel like, you know how some people feel like they're so I'm not really good with groups. And, you know what I'm saying? I'm not good with groups of people. And so I'm probably like, if you put me in a group of people and I'm number 10, I'm going to ease out at some point in time. Like I can't do it. I don't know why, but I'm just not really good with groups of people. I'm good on one-on-one, but I'm not really good with groups of people. And so it's just like, it was almost like, oh yeah, you're part of the group. And then when you're not no longer part of the group. That's how I felt like, you know, so I don't know. It was a little bit hard, because there were some really good relationships that I built with people, whatever, or at least that's what I thought. And then, and so afterwards, but then I guess because I started seeing like the hearts of people, and there were some things that I didn't understand. And so that was really big for me. And it almost feels like you have to be a part of something in order for you to fit in. And I'm just not going to fit in. So I don't need to be a part of anything. That's how I feel.
I think that's why I never did really get into it like that, because I've just always been that type of person. I just never fit in a lot of places. So the things I would have to do, the way I would have to act, it's like, I can't do that. So I'm just going to stay over here by myself.
Yeah,
you know?
It's almost like, and I'm glad that you said that. That key word was act, because if you have to act a certain way or put on the show, that's performance. Like it's show time, and that's how I felt like it was, because I could tell like the attitude and the shift with people and their and the expressions and that type of stuff, and it was, you could tell that the hearts were right, and so. That was hard for me, and if I know that I'm not doing something from a good place, then I don't need to be doing that at all. And so I really just had to take a step back. And sometimes people don't understand, and you know, people call me and say, "Oh, you," and I'm just like, "No, let me make my own decisions. This is something that I have to do. That this is something that I decided, and that I have to go to God and deal with, and you know what I'm saying, and allow Him to help me to get where it is that I need to be." So. So yeah, no. But that was tough because never in my life would I have imagined that I would be in this place. Yeah. So I mean, like, I've never not go to church. So that's hard. So, and it's so, I feel like it's so new to me in the season that I'm in that I just roll over and put the TV on and just like, here it is, you know, that type of stuff. But I mean, I think that over the years that I've had a lot of word that was sown into me. So I could handle myself, you know, and so, and not to say, oh, I can handle myself, but I know the word and I have that experience, you know, in that relationship with God. And so I still know how to allow myself to grow without having to lean on the gathering or fellowship. I'll just say that.
That's funny you say that because the other day, Timmy, my husband, and we were in the gym, and like the last part of our session in the gym, we would like get on the treadmill and walk. And you know, during that time, we're not like walking fast, so we always have conversations and talk about everything.
Not the people.
He said,
y'all ain't talking about the people, are you?
We talk about everything. Anybody and everything. No, because there's nobody usually in there. It's usually just us in there. It's a small gym, so. But he made the comment and he said that God is in you. Because we have conversations about church, like neither one of us are church goers, but you know, we believe in whatever we believe in. And him saying that, like, I guess I never really thought about it like that. But with you just saying how, you know what I'm saying, you stepped away from the church and you still had it in you to be able to still have your relationship with God, like that made me think about him telling me that, like, it's in you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. God is in you. So, you know, if you have that, then you should be good.
I feel like for me, I think that my desire has become greater. Like for me, I think I'm more passionate about God more than I have been ever in my life. Like, because you see so much going on in the world. And for me, I'm the person that I like to grow. I like to grow in areas in my life. So I'm going to see. I'm going to keep searching, and whenever I'm at a place where I don't know, like I expect God to show up. Like everything that I was taught in the way that I've learned the word, like I need God more than ever. But I want to see God show up the way that these people have taught me that God's going to show up. You know what I'm saying? So that makes that drives me to become closer to God, to want to know more, to want to see more, that type of stuff. I want to see the manifestation of the word. So it fuels me to push even harder, to learn more about God and to continue that relationship. Like I'm okay without the fellowship, but I'm not okay without God. That's how I feel. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I just come to a place where I don't want to be. There's some things that I see and I don't understand, or I don't feel that's right. But I don't want to be judgmental to whatever it is that other people are doing in church or whatever it is. Like, you know, for people who don't go to church, like I don't go to church now. You know what I'm saying? And there's no difference. You know,
I never would have thought I've heard you say that.
Exactly, me either. Me either. It's so I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like I'm in a new season in my life, and I mean, you know, one day I may return to church. You just never know, but it definitely would have to be like a safe space for me. So I'm a little bit skeptic about that. When the time comes, it comes, or whatever. And if it doesn't come, I know that God is still with me, and I know how to get the word, and I know how to continue to build my relationship with God, and I'm okay. I'm absolutely okay.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, because it's definitely been a struggle. Just uprooting everything and just moving forward. Like, okay, this is it. I felt like it was almost.
What do you do now that you don't go to church? Like you used to be at church all the time.
I know, right? But it seems like my life has been even busier. Like because I used to serve at church, and they had different programs and stuff like that. And so, but serving, you can serve anywhere. Like, and one of my uncles told me one time. He says that you have to take care of the people in front of you before you can go out and take care of the people in the world. And that made a big difference to me. And I saw that differently when I actually left the church, you know, because there were people standing in front of me that was in need of help versus going out in the world. And then it made me start to think, saying a lot of the times that I was giving and doing this and that, what was that really? Not to say what was that for, but it was almost like, but there's people that that are in need, that needs help or whatever like that. It was so, well, I don't want to say for me that it was so easier to give at church and not give outside, because I'm just a giver anyway, natural giver. And so, I would give to people walking down the street, that type of stuff. So I'm always I'm not walking down the street. Anytime that I can, I'm always going to give. But it just it put a lot of things into perspective for me, So I don't know. A lot of things changed. My perception of things changed. I changed, and it almost felt like it was like a new beginning for me. I felt like I was going off, almost like when I graduated high school and I was going off to college, and it was just like I was going out alone. I felt like, okay, hey, this door is closed and I'm going out alone. That's just how I felt.
That's deep.
Yeah, it was a big difference. But I feel good about it. I really do. I felt like I left out to go seeking something different. And I feel like my friend, the one that said her mom allowed them to go out on their own journey, to go to church where they wanted to go and to get, I feel like that's what I'm doing. I'm out. I'm a little bit more free and I'm not doing what someone else tells me to do or what someone else feels that is right for me. Kind of like someone who gets on a train and they just hop on a train and don't know where they're going. They don't know how to they don't have a destination, no plan, no nothing. They're just riding along. And I felt like I was just on a ride, on someone else's journey. That's how I feel. I was on someone else's journey and not my own. Yeah, it was time for me to get off the bus.
It was just
I feel good about it. I do.
Well, that's good.
I feel. What about you? As far as I know that you don't go to church, whatever, and I know that and just like you said, God is in you, and He is. And so, how do you feel about that? Do you think that even with your kids or whatever, maybe because you grew up in church, right?
No, see, I grew up Jehovah's Witness.
Okay, that's
going to the Kingdom Hall, which is kind of like church.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess as I started to be like a young teenager, we kind of stopped going. Family things happen, and I really feel like it just changed me as an adult. Like there was really not a path for me. I feel like because I grew up Jehovah's Witness and just watching some things that happen, like my parents getting divorced and them kind of like banishing my mom and my dad for the most part, meaning like they wouldn't talk to them. Like my dad was disfellowship, like he left his family. So it made a difference in, my religious life. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew that I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel like whatever in me, I didn't feel like it was right. The way that my mother was treated and even the way that my father was treated, even though he left us, so my upbringing just caused me to, when I get older, I never went to church. So it was hard for me to start. I could, and my mom actually started going, to church and stuff, but I just always felt like an outsider, but I didn't feel really bad about it because I always, thought about the teachings that I did have growing up as a young child, being Jehovah's Witness. We were taught about Jehovah and honor thy father and thy mother. Yeah. I never was one person to get into reading the Bible, other than when I was young and it was being taught to me. So I just kind of feel like I take what's in me and I know what's right and wrong, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. That's how I try to live my life, because that's all I know. Like, I don't know. All you know is what you know. Like, right. If something doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. If this feels good, then this is what I'm going to do. So that's how I live my life. Like, I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah.
It's hard for me. Like, I have tried to sit down and read the Bible and do different things, but I just felt like it just wasn't authentic to me. It wasn't genuine. Like, I don't learn things that way.
Yeah.
So it just never felt right. Not that it's wrong for other people to do it, but I'm just talking about like my experience with trying to go to church and trying to fit in at a church, or, I have tried several times to be a part of, that type of community, but it just never felt right,
You know what? And it's so sad to say when you said I try to be a part of that community, and it is hard. And a lot of people, and I've seen this before, people that come into church and they just felt like it wasn't the right fit for them, or some churches was, saying too big for people. Sometimes the word wasn't right, and I this is something that I saw on social media as well too. It was the things that people were putting out there as far as leaders, and it's just like I felt like this. Hey, I'm out here struggling, trying to live up to this or do this what's expected of me, or being obedient, and then I see something different, and then the behavior of leaders, fighting and all kinds of stuff that going on, and you see it on social media again. And it's kind of like, but you preach this word to us, and they sometimes they stand again, they stand before us and they say this, and this, and then when those trials come for us, we try to stand on the word that we receive, saying the word of God. But then when you see, it's almost like how your kids look up to you, and you have to live by an example so that they know what to do. It's kind of like, and I'm not saying that, I look up to them, but it's just like, you see this type of behavior, and it's almost like, okay, well, where's your word? Saying, if I have to fight so hard to do this, then where's your fight? So that was hard. That was hard. And I'm trying to be, I guess I'm just trying to watch my wording and not say things a certain way, because I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but it was really hard for me just watching in the behavior of pastors and leaders, and just the things that they would say and do. And it's just like, I can't do that. Like, I can't, especially if I'm trying to go somewhere, or I'm trying to get to a place in my life, or I'm trying to live a certain type of way or whatever, which is accordingly. And I'm not perfect, and I can't use that as an excuse. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be the same. I can't be the same and then expect someone to see me differently.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I felt like they were the same. And the thing is that, and of course, social media allows everyone to be like an open book. So then you see this certain behaviors, and then it's almost like, okay, so when you're in the workspace, right? And how if an employee does something wrong, management's going to cover it up. They're going to cover everybody. They're going to cover each other or whatever, like that, until it all falls apart. And I feel like that's exactly what I see in church. I mean, in the church space, because leaders do things wrong, and then everyone surrounds them and says, "Oh, give him some grace." Somebody else does something wrong. Let's say in the secular, like someone else, like another artist, R&B artist, something like that. And then you hear this negative talk about them, I guess because they didn't belong to this Christian group or whatever. And so that bothers me, because you want to give some grace over here, but that part that doesn't make any sense to me. And so every time something goes wrong, we hear this word grace, but it almost seems like only certain people can receive it. That is my issue.
And that's what I didn't like either. I noticed about going to some churches, the exclusivity or whatever of it. If you weren't a member, I didn't like that part. I'm like, I thought the church supposed to be open to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just another thing that made me feel like I just wasn't a part. So I'm supposed to show up, but no, you got to stay over there because you're not a member. You can't do these things. And I get it. Like, okay, whatever the qualifications to be a member is, I get that, but I don't think you should make people feel that way. Like, I don't know. I didn't like feeling like that.
Yeah,
that was hard.
There was a lot of things that really just got to me. Little things that I thought was so petty. And like, I remember when I lost my job. This was like 2018, December 2018, and I served as an usher or whatever. And we had to wear like like we had to be like uniform. We had to wear like a certain color shirt every month, whatever, like that. And so I think I had just started on the usher team or whatever. And I wasn't going out to buy anything. Like if I had it in my closet, I was good, but I'm not buying clothes to wear to church. That doesn't make any sense to me. Right. And so even though it's like you could wear and I remember, and I had on this, I think we had to wear like a red shirt and it had to be solid. And I had on a red plaid shirt or whatever. It's a red shirt. And I probably worked just as hard as any other person that served on that thing. And someone made a comment about me not being unified. And and then I had to get some backup. And I was just like, I was so angry. Number one, this is because I just said that I lost my job and you're talking to me about a shirt. And then someone made a comment and said that I could go to Goodwill and they have some shirts and you can find something cheaper or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe that we're having this conversation. That's not what I was thinking, but that's what I'm going to tell you. I can't believe that we're having this conversation. I was so angry. Like I was so angry. And it was because someone else, like another person complained that I didn't have the right shirt on. And I was just like, I can't even believe, first of all, why are we in high school? And then on top of that, why are we having this conversation? I lost my job and you're telling me to go to Goodwill to buy a shirt. And so I'm just like, I'm here for one reason and one reason only. And if you want to talk to me about a shirt, then I don't think that I need to be here because I sacrificed and gave up a lot. Like I was there for different events, helping and stuff because my schedule was a little bit, afterwards, a little bit more flexible or whatever. But it was just like, I'm pouring myself into helping others and you're talking to me about a shirt. Wow. And I just thought that was poor leadership. That was just, please don't. Yeah. And then there was just little things. I remember one time where I was standing in a spot for like altar call or whatever like that. And I remember there was just leaders, they would act like you wasn't even in existence. I mean, if I was standing in the space and they wanted that space, they would stand in that same space with me. How do you do that until I'm at the place where I have to push back because you're now in my space and there's no excuse me? Or sometimes if I would be standing there with someone else, you would see leaders come up and talk to one person and not speak. And I'm standing here like, oh, hey, such and such or whatever. I'm like, excuse me, but was I not standing here? Did you not see me? Like, that's how I felt like I was non-existent. And I was just like, what's wrong with these people? Like, it's so interesting because how do you just not speak to people? Like I could walk into a building, or if I walk into your home, or if I see you if I walk out the gym and I'm passing someone, I'm going to speak to them. I just can't help it. But that's what I got. And I was just like, that just doesn't seem right to me. That doesn't make any sense. And I try not to look at it as I can't expect people to be just like me, but I think that I just had like a different expectation for leaders. And so, and I just like, this isn't the type of leadership for me. And so that's why I felt like, that's why I was really comfortable exiting. And I felt like it was just the right. Like I felt like it was the perfect time not to go back. So I knew that when I walked away, it's almost like one of those bad relationships. It builds up to it. And when you exit, that's it for you. And I felt like that was it for me. That
makes sense. So that's like a job, I guess. Even though it wasn't a job, I guess you look at it like.
But they treated it like it was a job, like they did. And I was just like, you can't treat it, if anything, you know what I'm saying? From all of my years and experience as a manager, when you treat your people right, your people are going to treat you right. And so they'll always keep coming back, no matter how much you struggle. They'll be more willing and open to be in the struggle and the fight with you. But that's not what they gave. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like they abused. In that situation, I felt like the church and that leadership, that particular church, I think they abused the people. Or I felt abused. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, because I can't do that. So I think I was more happy. I was happy to exit. It was just not the right place for me. But I think I still feel like there's some good leaders out there, and I think that there's some good churches. I just feel like I feel like I'm safe on my own at this moment. And then we'll just see what's next for me. Yeah, my experience and your experience are a little bit different, but I do understand why why you feel the way that you do. I do understand the way you feel, the reason why you feel the way that you do. And hopefully, you just never know what the future holds. You just never know. The right doors are open and the right people come in. The thing is that God's going to love us no matter what. Yeah. He is. And so I don't care what nobody says. That ain't right. God's going to love you no matter what. If you go to church, you don't go to church. He's not, whether he say, I would never leave you or forsake you, God ain't going to leave you just because you go to church.
Well, I believe that. I mean, I really don't have a problem with it. I'm fine. I know that I'm a good person and I try to live, as right as I can possibly live.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I believe in heaven and hell, but I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Like whatever it is.
Do you ever question or become curious to know if it is real? Like if some of the stuff that you've learned out of the Bible, have you ever questioned or just like, I want to know if this is true or is this made up or did somebody just put this together? Have you ever just thought about, man, I really do want to know if this is right or wrong?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. To be honest with you, I feel like I was born with certain things in me to where I can feel certain things or I can, I know people or I can it just comes to me. So I feel like it was just put in me from birth. Not saying that I'm God. I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying like, I don't ever question like the right and the wrong because I feel like it's going to come to me like a spirit, whatever it is. You know how you say, God is going to, show me the way or whatever.
Oh,
I really feel like that. Like, so I actually do believe in the stuff that, people speak from the Bible because it's been in my life experience for me. Like things will come to me and I'm like, okay, it's got to be something. Like, why did this happen? Or why did that happen? Like, why did I feel this way? Or why did I know this? So I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but so yeah, I do, I think about that all the time, but I don't really necessarily question it. Like I'm one of those people, whenever it's my time to go, I am actually ready to go. Not that I want to kill myself or I want to die. But that's just how I am. I've just always been that type of person. Like, don't fuss over me when I'm going, like, whatever the afterlife is, I'm ready for the afterlife.
Oh, that's good. Even though it's, you have no idea what it's going to be like.
Right.
But
I have no idea. I really don't. And I don't really think about it. I really don't think about it like that because I just feel like all I can do is live life the best I can while I'm here. And that's what I try to do. Like every day I try to start over and, enjoy life and live it to the fullest. Because we don't know when it's going to be our last day. But I have no clue what is waiting on the other side, whatever the other side or wherever I'm going to go. I don't. But I don't really dwell on it either. I really don't.
My grandparents always told us that we were on borrowed time, and I love to say that too. We're on borrowed time. We don't know the day, the minute, nor the hour, but one day our time will be up. And I try to think about that. I try to live life as if it's the last day. And at some point in my life, I felt like if it ended today, then I felt like I did a lot of good. And I felt like, I felt like I lived. That's how I felt. But now I'd be like, okay, well, I don't think I'm ready to go just yet because I'm not done. There's still some things, God, that I want to see in the earth. I still want to see, there's a lot of things that I still want to see God manifest in my life, so, and even though I felt like I've always been in a good place, like I feel like, oh, I'm a good person. Now I feel like, I don't think that I was really that good of a person. So I need to make some corrections. I'm dead serious. I mean, I truly felt like, oh, I think I'm a pretty good person. And then sometimes I look at like my behavior, because some things you forget. And, my relationships with people, like, I don't think I'm that good of a person. I need to change some things. And I do. I try to correct those things and whatever. And I try to reflect more and see myself, like from someone else's perspective, from someone else's shoes and not just my own, because let me tell it, I do no wrong. But then,
I think we're all like that though.
Yeah.
Actually, talking to my sons, especially my older son, because the middle son, my 15-year-old, like, he won't talk. He barely will talk to you. So you're not going to get a conversation. He's just quiet. Like, I used to be like that. Like, he just doesn't talk a lot. But when I do engage in conversation with my 19-year-old son, I find that I learn so many things, and it's very humbling because he's 19. So he's getting to the age to where not that he'll necessarily talk back, and I encourage him to speak what he feels. Right. And he's had to tell me some stuff about myself, even as his mother, like, he was like, well, you did such and such. I'm trying to explain certain things to him about being a Black man and not being aggressive with people and certain things like that. And, he throws some stuff in my face because I'm always fussing about something at work or something like that. And, so I learned a lot just from other people and even about myself. Like, it's very humbling, but I have to sit with it. Mm-hmm. I have to, so that I can at least try to be better. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't just go in the world and, well, this is what you're going to get from me. This is the way I am. I try not to be that way, even though a lot of us are like that. So when somebody says something to me, I try to sit with it and, try to change a little bit at least,
Right. Yeah. To at least try to see it from their lens, because we're really different. We have different backgrounds and upbringing. I think that goes back to the conversation that we had earlier about people of different races, because maybe they didn't grow up with or were surrounded by a lot of different African Americans or different races or whatever, and so maybe it's just a lot different for them. But again, sometimes I think that people do know better, but they just don't do better. And so for us, saying we've always tried to be respectful, and a lot of I don't even want to go into this direction, but we do things a certain way because of our background and where we came from. Saying I think that has a lot to do with the respect, just because of slavery. Saying that type of stuff. But anyway, let me just fast forward because this is not the conversation, not today, but this is not the conversation that I want to have. But it is hard, seeing yourself, but we do have to see ourselves. And I try to look at myself in the mirror, and sometimes when I have arguments and I have to think back of, okay, how did this stem? Like, where did this come from? Saying, watch my behavior. And I look back at my behavior while growing up and stuff, and gosh, I was so terrible, really. And that makes me question like the person that I am now. And I still sometimes tell myself that I'm still selfish. I really am. And I have to correct that, because a lot of times I see things my way and not the way that other people, or just because I do things a certain way, I can always expect someone else to do it the same way as well too. So I'm not all that good of a person. That's the truth.
Oh, please.
That's the truth. Not all that good of a person, but I try every day. I try to live a little bit differently and correct my ways or whatever, and try to just become a better person. I think that, I just think that that's how we're supposed to live, and even though I have to, I'm just learning how to be my authentic self and show up for me the way that I need to show up for myself, and live more freely. And just like when I was just hearing you speak about that, just trying to be a good person and do right. And just, I want to be happy and free and not worry about stuff and carry things, burdens and stuff like that, because I don't think that's not the way that we should live, or that's not the way that I want to live. I want to just, enjoy these days. I think that there's a lot of things that I take on that I shouldn't. And so I'm just learning how to let those things go and try to live the life that I feel like God is leading me to live, and not the life that some of the things that I picked up from others or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I'm able to let things go. Like, even like, stopping me from even getting into certain arguments with people or having confrontation with people, because at the end of the day, for me, it's like, it's not worth it, Yeah. Not saying that I also get in arguments, especially with my husband, but,
yeah.
A lot of the other ones, I don't even entertain it. Like, it's just not.
Yeah, there's some things that and actually this is the conversation that I had with myself today, that I have sometimes I have an issue with fear and control. And it's almost like, not like you try to control people, or not like I try to control people, but sometimes I try to control the outcome of things. And that is something I'm definitely working on. It's more of, I'm not trying to manipulate the outcome, but if I'm afraid that something's bad, then I try to run away from it to try to protect myself. And that's not good. So that is something that I definitely have been working on, my control issues and not running from. And I think that's another part of my issue with relationships, build a relationship with people. Sometimes I just have fear, or I just put up a wall and block people out because I don't want to let people into my space. Or if I don't feel like I can trust someone, you can't be in my circle if I can't trust you. That's how I feel. And I will definitely block someone out for that reason. Definitely. So yeah. So I mean, just life has taught me some things, a lot of things. And I'm just trying to, and that's why I said I'm not ready to go, because I know that there's a lot more work for me to do in the earth, and a lot more work for me to do on myself. I just want to live a happy life, and without all of those stipulations and the things that had just taken place in church. Like, I don't want to carry that. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that group, that community. I mean, there's some good. There's a lot of good, but there's just some things that I don't want to be a part of. And I think that the world is filled with good people. And I think that the world is filled with people that you could do life with and serve with, and I just don't feel like it all has to be in that building. So I volunteer a lot, and I go out and I help people, and I try to make a difference in the world as much as I can, locally and globally, but again, like my uncle said to me, you want to take care of your people, take care of home, the people that are in front of you before you branch out, because it's almost like, what's the purpose of it? I'm saying? You overlook the need that's in front of you to take on something different. So yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I can serve the people that are in front of me before I can go out and serve other people. And I feel like I don't have to be in church. I don't have to be in that.
No, you definitely don't. But that's good that you still, are making sure that you're trying to serve, even though you're not going to church and doing it through their organization anymore.
No, that the church wasn't my life. I'm saying? My life is with Christ. And I feel like everything that I was doing inside the church, I could do that on my own. And I can still build that relationship with God. And I can still worship, and I can still seek God and seek the word. And actually, I'm going to tell you this, for me, when I was younger, growing up, it was hard. Like, I would read the Bible, and there's a lot of stories that are good stories. And there's a lot of things that I didn't understand. Like, I really just didn't get it. And then when I started reading the Bible again, I guess from a different perspective of it, and it's a lot of things I feel like we have to kind of piece together and stuff, make sense of it. And so it's actually a pretty funny book. It really is. I mean, it's a hot mess. That's what I say. It's a hot mess. Like, you're just thinking like, hold on a second, whatever. And you start to think about it. It's funny. There's a lot of stuff, and I actually enjoy. Like, I don't read my Bible every single day. I don't. But I do read scriptures and stuff like that, because I need to have those to apply to my life and whatever. But I think that the stories are really good in the Bible. They're really funny. And it does definitely could start a good conversation or whatever. You just kind of look through the lenses of someone else or whatever. But I think that it's pretty interesting. I enjoy it. Yeah, I do. And sometimes I make up my own stories, but anyway. Make up my own story.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, it seems like wait, hold on a second. It seems like a lot of people are making up their own stories. Yeah, they just do whatever it is that they want to do with that.
Right.
So just take the word and run with it or whatever. But I'm just hoping that I come to a good place where I feel like I'm growing in a lot of different areas in my life. And I feel like, and sometimes I do feel like there's times that sometimes I feel like it's a setback, but I know that it's not a setback. Like, you know how sometimes you grow in an area and then something happened and it's just like, oh no, like, did I do this right? Did I do this wrong? Or, you know what I'm saying? But I've already been through this, man. I could have done this differently. And I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm still in the same place. And that bothers me a lot. And then I have to tell myself, hold a second, because it's almost like in real estate, we always say no two houses are identical. And I feel like no two seasons are identical, because you can go through something one time and then you can go through almost the exact same thing again. But I think that you have to look for the difference in that second time, because it's never going to be the exact same. You're not going to be the exact same when you go through it. And that's the part that I have to work on a little bit more, because sometimes when I'm challenged in a certain area twice or three times, I feel like, man, didn't I just go through this? Or what do I need to do different? But I'm different. But I think the biggest part is that I always beat myself up versus just going through it and just allowing whatever it is to take its course or whatever. I feel like I need to know, or I need to have a handle on it. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that we can't have a handle on it. We can't control anything. And that's been a part of my journey, just giving up things and letting it go. Just letting life take its course and just seeing what happens. I think that's a good word for me. That's a good word for me. Just letting life happen.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, it really is. I think for everyone, and that's the reason why I like to have these conversations. I remember telling myself that there's a lot of good people in the world, and there's a lot of good stories, and I think that there's going to be a lot of good conversation. And that's the exact reason why I started the podcast, because I feel like we can learn so much from each other when we open up and we share, because we don't know what someone else has to bring or someone else has to give. And sometimes, people, I know that, they feel like, oh, we have to fellowship with same type of people amongst the church or whatever. And again, I don't like to be in a group. I don't like to be within, there's a lot of people out here in the world who needs what I have, and I might need something that they have. And then we might not ever meet in the church, that type of stuff. So yeah, that's exactly the reason why I wanted to start a podcast and be able to talk with people and just hear their story and tell my own story and be truthful about it, because I think that sometimes people are afraid to be their authentic self.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always been that's something that I saw. People aren't able to be transparent about stuff. And what you don't even realize that you can actually help somebody else when you're living in your truth. Well, I think that we had such a great time today. I think that we had a really good conversation. And I'm going to be honest, it kind of went off track because this wasn't the direction, but I always feel like, and I never really just plan for things or whatever. I always have like one question that I know that'll take me into a different direction. But sometimes I just kind of feed off of what someone else shares and kind of let the conversation flow from that point or whatever. And so I think that I think that this was just the right conversation that we had today, because I hadn't really just talked about my experience with, church and not going back. I hadn't really just had that open conversation about that type of stuff, because I've shared with someone else that I used to go to church with, and just kind of openly talked about, some of the things, and, they could relate and understood. But I hadn't just had like a real open conversation about some of the things that I saw and, the things that I experienced, that type of stuff. So I think that this was good. I feel like every conversation is led, and that, what comes out is what's the story that's supposed to be told. So
yeah, that's how I feel. That's why I agreed to do it, because I feel like, whoever I talk to, like, I'm just going to be myself, and
right.
We don't have to agree. We have different stories. We have different lives. So it just wasn't a big deal. The older I get, I'm just so different. Like, some things I would be more reserved at before, or, oh, I shouldn't say this or I shouldn't say that. No. I know what is offensive and what's not. So of course I'm not going to try to say anything offensive, but all I can do is be me. Like, I get up every day and just try my best to, that's all you can do. That's what I feel like being your authentic self is, or, living in your truth, like getting up every day and trying and, so.
To be a better
um,
person and trying to heal from the, saying the trauma of life or whatever. And even when you asked the question about, just having the things that I endured while in church and stuff like that. And I had to realize that, church has been a part of my life for many, many, many years. I'm 41 this year and I had been in church too. So almost 40 years, because I grew up in church, and so that's difficult. And maybe I might need to make sure, and I have to go back and backtrack to make sure that I've grieved all of it and make sure that I've processed all the way through. And so that I could put that behind me. Whether and who knows in the future, I may be back in the church, or, I may marry a pastor. I hope that doesn't happen, but you just never know what happens in the future. And so, so I want to make sure that part of my life is behind me as I continue to move forward or whatever like that. I definitely don't want to take that experience into my future, because I don't know what the future holds, but definitely I want to leave my baggage of the past behind me. So yeah, I am going to make sure that I process this all the way through and go all around the grieving circle to make sure that I leave this in the past.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of things that I might when I just thought about that, there's a lot of things that I might want to make sure that I leave in the past, because there's so much greatness in the future or ahead of us, and we don't want to take that baggage. And I feel like, since I said that out loud, I feel like there's a lot of baggage, or not a lot of baggage, but there's a lot of hurt and pain and trauma that we continue to take into the future. Even that pain, even while I was talking about, and maybe I need to think about that article that I read with the lady talking about her daughter and the guy, the African-American guy and the Caucasian young lady, that, saying, I want to make sure that I'm not seeing that from the lenses of the discrimination that I went through, prior to that, saying the early years coming out of college, like, going into the workspace, whatever. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at it from the right lens as well too. So I think
it's hard because you never know. I always question myself about stuff like that. Like, am I doing too much? Am I seeing something that's really not there?
Not there, yeah.
Yeah. I do that a lot. So where it causes me to just kind of let things go, because it's like, you don't know. So, and I don't want to, I don't like to start stuff with people or, carry on things that it just may be me and in my head. So I end up just letting a lot of stuff go, because it's just like.
Yeah, because at some point in my life, I felt like some of that stuff kind of like, I don't know if there was a part of me that inside that was angry or just hurt, because I do know that I had a conversation that I asked God at one point in time, why are Black people hated the way that we are? Or why do we have to suffer and go through certain things or whatever? I question that a lot. And so I'm wondering if there's something in me, saying that, like, that I'm carrying. And I think that I have to have a conversation with myself and God to make sure that I clear myself from that. Because I remember this was 2019, and I was on a work trip, and I was in this class, and we were just finishing up, and I was just about to get a flight out of Chicago back to South Carolina. We were just about to go to the airport, or load up to go to the airport. And this young guy came and sat beside me, and he threw up the sign, some type of sign that I had just read about it like a week or two prior. And it was a sign that it says that I'm above you, or I'm above you, or only, it's some gang, kind of like a gang related sign. And I saw it, and I had already knew what it was, because I had just saw it, that it was going around. And I had asked him, why did you throw that sign up or whatever? And he was like, oh, and he tried to act like he didn't know, whatever, like that. But he did. And so when I shared what it was, the sign meant or whatever like that, he tried to brush it off, say, oh, I don't know, because he did it like 2-3 times or whatever. And so because I wanted to make sure I was clear what I saw or whatever. And so he ran out of the train. He didn't even finish up to the end. He left. And so I spoke with the manager. I was so offended. Why would you just come? He came out of nowhere, sat beside me, and just threw that sign up and made sure that he got my attention, tapped me to throw that sign up. Yes. And so I was just like, what is wrong? What is wrong with people? And I'm wondering if I'm holding some type of offense, and maybe that's like a magnet or something, that draws people. And I never really just thought about it, but I'm wondering if that draws that type of that negative behavior, or I hadn't let it go. Maybe that could be a part of it. I don't know, but I might need to process that and see if there's something that I'm carrying, maybe that.
I don't know. I feel you on that, because I feel like stuff be coming to me and I'll be like, why did this, like you said, like, why did this come to me?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's like sometimes I'm the only one that sees it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. And it's almost like I'm always the one with the story. Like, why in the world do I always have to experience so much craziness? I remember one of my mentors says, gosh, you always have an interesting story. And it feels like it's something always going on around me or something, so like a good story just draws right to me. And so I feel like that's so weird, because I always have a story to tell. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So that made me wonder, am I holding something in me that would attract that type, either it's like some hurt or pain or something, just from all of the discrimination. I remember it started once I graduated. No, I think it was when I was in college. That's when I started, experiencing the racism when I was in college. And it just kind of grew over the years like a magnet, like it just kept coming or whatever. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with me, but I'm wondering if it's something like, there's some fear? Is there something that I need to let go of, so that it stops? I don't know.
Do you think that you're, I don't know. Do you think that something in the universe just wants you to see those things, or?
Man, that's interesting. That is right.
I'm just
to make you more aware, because there
Right.
could be something that comes along later on, with it or whatever, So you're right. You could be right about that. You're definitely right, because a lot of things you just need to be more aware for. So maybe there's some type of assignment. Maybe you experience those things for a reason later on in the future. So that is something that I might need to I want to write that down and make sure that I'll be able to go back to it, because something may manifest from it,
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be a person that maybe God will use me. And I'm not saying this, I'm not asking for this, God. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm not asking for this, because sometimes you put those things and them challenges come, and I'm like, God, I did not sign up for this. This is not what I said. I'm gonna put that on record right now. This is not what I said. I'm just saying, maybe there's a reason for it. I ain't even gonna talk about it no more, because every time I do this with God, He always comes up with something I ain't got time for. No, thank you. No, thank you. I ain't even gonna try to think about it, because every time I say, well, I wonder why, or nope, I don't wonder. I don't even want to know. I'm gonna leave that right there with Him. Maybe He'll find somebody else. I'm just kidding.
If it's you, it's you.
That's right. There's no running from it. There definitely is no running from it. Yeah, I think that the things that we experience, you're right. The things that we experience, I think that there's purpose in those things. So then maybe there's a reason for it behind the whole whatever that I experienced, with church. There has to be a reason behind it. And I feel like God may use that at some point in time. And that's why I said that I want to make sure I clear myself from the energy and the negative energy and the baggage. I don't want to carry that into my future, because there may be something else that springs forth, and I don't want to just mess that up. Whatever, sweet, you just never know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I can mess it up, but I just feel like I don't want to carry that experience into my future with whatever it is that may come with it. Yeah, but this has definitely been a good conversation. It has made me start to think about a lot more things or whatever. So this was good. I feel like it's been a led conversation, to get our brain flowing and thinking. And you know what, maybe we might have a part two to this at some point in time. I feel like, there's so much more ahead of us, and who knows what we might can come back and revisit this conversation and understand why God keeps showing me all this stuff. So you just never know. And I definitely would want to bring you back to talk about it again. So I can say, well, we talked about this, and then look at God, and then you'll see, something manifest from it. Or who knows, we might have a story that you'd like to come on and talk about at some point in time as well too. So
sounds good.
It's been good talking with you, and
You too.
We'll definitely have to do this again.
All right, for sure. Thanks for having me.
This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. The Twindle Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the wealth gap of African Americans and minorities by increasing homeownership. Did you know that 44% of Black families own their home compared to 73% of white families? A barrier to minority homeownership is student loan debt. Through scholarship, the Twindle Foundation is providing minority students with an opportunity to take on less financial debt. To give to the Twindle Foundation, visit www.twindlefoundation.org.